And next up we have the Bally Revenge from Mars. This is a Pinball 2000, which incorporates traditional pinball with a video, which it's a really neat game. A lot of people like it. They only made 2 of these. They had the Revenge from Mars, this one, and Star Wars Episode 1. So what we're going to be doing in this video series is I'm going to be shopping out this game and doing the repairs, and hopefully we can get some interesting content for you guys to follow along. So maybe it'll help somebody fix theirs in the future. But it's in decent shape, and when I'm done with it, it's going to look fantastic. So what we'll start with is we'll tear the Playfield down and do what they call a shop on it. So basically all the parts come off, everything gets clean, polished, polish the Playfield, repair any broken parts, and then put it back together. Then we'll do the cab and some of the aesthetics. And then there's a couple issues that need repaired on it. The sound, for some reason, is not working, and the monitor is a little weak. So next step is we'll shop the Playfield. All right, so the first phase is done on the tear down. Still got a lot of all the ball guides and everything to come off. Get this torn down as flat as possible before we start cleaning. So I got all the parts labeled and on the table. So I'll catch up with you when I get everything else off.
It makes sense to switch taxis online, over the phone, or with your local agent.
The River 97.3 weather. For today, mostly sunny and warm, highs into the low 70s. Tonight, mostly clear, a little bit of patchy fog overnight, the low 48. Sunday, mostly sunny and warm again, the high into the low 40s. I'm CBS 21 meteorologist Tom Russell. This report is sponsored by 12-Hour Mucinex. Mucinex presents the lives of doctors. Throughout history, doctors have used tools they trust to help them treat your illnesses. But what do they trust when they have a cough or cold? Mucinex, the number 1 brand. For music, radio, and podcasts, all in one. No one makes it easier to hear everything you love in one free app.
That's what I need these days.
I really love that iHeart puts all the stations and podcasts. I love it.
No need for much exclusive phone.
It's easy and it's free. If you're not one of the tens of millions who have the app, download the video for free today and start listening.
Taking all the post out, gonna get everything off the Playfield to make it flat so we can polish it. It's a nice thing about the Pinball 2000. That's how easy it is to pull the Playfield out. Just like that. You put it on the bench. A lot easier to work on. Okay, so we have the Playfield out. It's just a lot easier to work on. I'll put that on a bench and we'll finish tearing that down. And also it makes it a lot easier to clean the interior of the cabinet. So got all the room we need now to get in there and clean that. Make a lot easier job. So next is to set that up on the bench and finish taking everything off the top. Okay, so Playfield is out and we have it on the bench. Just a little bit easier to work on this way. So I pretty much have it torn down as far as I'm going to go to do the shop job. I'll probably take a couple more little things off. But these pop bumpers, they will all have to come off. The skirts are all broken, beat to hell. So they'll all come apart and get rebuilt. And we got the table of parts over here, round 2 of the parts table. So next step, just a couple little things come off and then we can start cleaning. And that's as far as I'm going to go on the tear down. I am going to rip these pop bumpers apart now just so I can get underneath them and polish everything. All the broken skirts. They'll all get new parts. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to tear these pop bumpers off. And then after that, I can start cleaning and polishing. And the pop bumpers are off. So now we got a nice flat surface to start polishing. And this is why it's a good idea to tear your game down. You find stuff that you normally wouldn't see. The center flap, it's got a crack in it. So that's going to have to be replaced. So we'll get a new one of those. This is round 2 with a milder polish and a foam pad. Little air, blow off all the dust, and then we'll start waxing. All right, now we're going to apply the wax. And then remove the wax with a microfiber cloth. Apply it 2-inch tape on the side rails. Anything you don't want to spatter from the wax or from the rubbing compound. It'll put white dots on everything, just make a mess. So I just tape it off so we don't get any of that. And then I also, any light sockets, before I polish, I fill those with just tin foil. That way nothing gets down in there, and the light sockets, you have good continuity when you put the bulbs back in. That's looking real good. I want to put a second layer on the high traffic areas. And I like using this Colonite heavy duty paste wax. It's a marine wax for boats. Works really good. You can use beeswax or anything. I like this the best though. So high traffic areas, second coat. right, then back to the microfiber cloth. Flip it over, get a clean side. That ball is gonna fly on this playfield. That thing is, whew, that is smooth. I'll give you a, when I'm done here, I'll give you a close-up of the gloss finish on it. And this is the finished playfield after cleaning and waxing. Let's see if I can get. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, but it's got a high gloss to it now. Okay, so my technique for polishing a playfield, and I found this works the best for me, I get the best results, is you first start by cleaning the playfield with just a towel and a degreaser. Anything's good. Main green, grease lightning, anything. And get the majority of the dirt off with that. And then I cover all the light sockets with the foil so that you don't get any trash in it. And come through, like all your ball trails, you're gonna have pinball dust, you know, and all the habit trails and whatnot. So I use isopropyl alcohol and Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and that eliminates all that off of there. And then after that's done, I come through with a wool bonnet and a semi-aggressive rubbing compound, and that will take all the scratches out and any ball dust that's remaining on there. Polish the mylars, polish the paint, and then come through after that with a swirl remover and a sponge pad. And then the final step, come through with a good wax. I like to use these kind of applicators and a microfiber cloth and polish it up. And I get good results doing it that way, so that's usually what I do, unless there's anything on the playfield that needs something more aggressive, but that usually takes care of everything. All right, so the polishing is done on the playfield, and now we just reverse what we did to start with. So next step is the secondary table of parts that we took off. They get refurbished and put back on the playfield. So that's the process I'm going to start now, and I'll catch back up with you when I get those parts on. Okay, so I'm working on reinstalling the stand-up targets, and what I like to do with these is get you a cup of good degreaser and a toothbrush. You just give them a good scrub. Get all the wax and everything out of the rivet. And then once you do that, I like to use a good steam cleaner and steam it off. And they're like, that is really clean. So that's a good way to do that. So I'll do that to all the stand-up targets throughout the game, and then we can reinstall those. All the switches are installed. And the last thing you want to do is put the deadening foam in behind the switches. Always replace that with new. Things installed. Get the slingshot kickers in and the switches. Switches are all polished up. So moving on to the other parts on the table. And a couple more pieces on. Got the ball shooter ramp in and the large habit trail for the outer loop. Everything's cleaned and regrained. Just pick one piece at a time. And we have the pop bumpers rebuilt and installed. All new skirts. Trim rings are all refreshed, so this thing's moving along. Update you soon when I get some more parts on. And we have some new parts arriving, so every day I got parts showing up, so with the new parts I'll be able to continue on, get this thing put back together. I hope by the end of the weekend here to have it all put back together. And then before I put it back in, then we'll start working on the cabinet. Get everything refreshed inside here. It's pretty clean, but we can make it better. All right, and one of the things that's broken is the center ramp, spring steel. It's cracked right there. It's got some dings in it. So it's fatigued, ready to be replaced. So okay, so flap is off, ready to install the new one. And we have the new spring steel flap installed, riveted on real nice, just like factory. So let's install it in the Playfield. And the new spring steel center ramp installed. And we got a few more parts added. So we got some metal hardware on. All the ball habit trails are on. And the backboard. So the first table, parts pile is getting smaller. That's always a good thing. That means parts are going on. So we'll finish up this table and then get table number 1 back out and try to finish it off. All right, so all the parts from table number 1 are gone. They're empty and they are installed on the Playfield. So we're ready to move on to table number 2. And we also have all the rubbers installed, all the bulbs installed. Okay, so we're moving on to table number 2. And here we are moving on to table number 2. So once we get this pile of parts on the playfield, the top side will be done and we can flip it over and work on the bottom side. So we need to rebuild the flippers, clean all the inserts, replace all the bulbs underneath, check all the mechanisms, all that kind of stuff. So we'll catch up with you in the next video. So we made some good progress today. The top side is nearly done. Everything's on except for the ball arch. Everything's cleaned, refreshed. So we just have ball arch that goes right there. And then flip it over and start the underside. But I'm very happy with it. Everything cleaned up very nice. Ramps are no broken plastics, which is unusual. But they also had the slings had the metal washers, fender washers in them. So that probably prevented those from breaking. But the ramps cleaned up very nice. They're crystal clear. Gonna look really nice when everything's lit up in the game. All right, so we'll catch up with you when I get the ball arch on and I start the underside. And the playfield top side is finished now. Got the ball arch installed. So the only thing left to do is to rebuild the flippers. So we have some of the parts over here on the table getting ready to go. So that'll be the last thing on the top actually, is the flippers. And then we can flip it over and start the underside. And there's a couple different ways you can rebuild the flippers. You can buy the whole flipper bracket with all the components on it. So you got your coil stop, your EOS switch, your bushing, and then you buy your complete plungers, links, and paws. Or you can just buy your EOS switch, or you can just buy a kit which normally comes with an EOS switch, the plungers and links, coil sleeves, and the bushing. That's what most people do, is this kit right here, because it's a lot cheaper. But it all depends, you know, the condition of your game, what you want to do. So next step here, we're going to go ahead and take the flippers apart and start replacing components. Okay, now we're going to rebuild the flipper assemblies. So the first thing you want to do is take the mechanisms off. Eight screws. All right, so that's free. And you just want to cautious when you let that hang. Next step, you want to take this white bushing off, and you want to make sure you take those nuts off first from behind, because otherwise you can break those screws pretty easily. So just use a nut driver, taking nuts off. And there's 3 on there, so this is the last one. And 3 screws in the front. Okay, so you want to remove that. Always replace those. And with your new bushing, you just want to reverse the process. Don't tighten any of them until you get them all in. Then go around and snug them. Then I like to add a little removable Loctite on the threads before you put the nuts back on. Then back on with the nut driver, tighten those up. And you want to reinstall the housing. And the final screw. And the next step, you want to take the coil stop off. And replace the coil stop with new, because they get beat up in here, cupped out. And remove your coil. You want to clean that. And then the coil sleeve, take that out. Sometimes it can be tight. Replace that with new. And you have your new coil sleeve. And the flange part goes away from the flipper pawl. Baby's tight. And if you have trouble getting the sleeves out, you can always take a socket, deep well socket, and tap them out. And gently tap her in there. New sleeve is in. All right, so next phase is to unhook the spring from the flipper paw, and paw plunger, everything comes off. And the new flipper paw plunger link, everything gets reinstalled. And reattach the spring. So that's in. Now we can put the coil back in. Coil has the new plunger bushing in it. And the new coil stop. Little Loctite on the Allens. Number 2. Tighten those up real good. And then replace the EOS switch here. And then we're ready to put the flippers on. The flipper paddles that come through from the top and adjust those. I'll show you how to do that, but next we're going to do the right flipper. And we're just going to rinse and repeat on the right side here. So start and get the bracket off. Taking the bushing off. And we're installing the new flipper paddles. When putting these in, every goodie bag in a WPC Bally Williams game comes with this gauge. You want to put that under the flipper, under the flipper bat, and then push down on the flipper so that it just gives you that much space. It's like a feeler gauge. And once you get that, before you tighten it up down below, if you look in the Playfield, behind the flipper there's a little hole in the wood right there, that little circle with the wood tone behind each flipper bat. You want to put a toothpick in there. Toothpick in the hole. You want your flipper bat right up against it. You want to pretty much do it so the angle of the flipper bat here is the same with your ball guide. That gives you your best angle as far as placing the ball in your loops up the center. Just makes it a lot more fun to play. If they're not adjusted that way, you're missing angles in control of the ball. Game typically came with white flipper bats. I put the yellow on, I think they look better. And now we're working under the Playfield. So we're gonna clean all the light inserts, light boards, put all new bulbs in. So I had the light boards, bulbs, everything removed from underneath. And this exposes all the light inserts, which are all these lenses right here. So I'll show you how to clean those the way I do it anyway. It makes it really easy. So next up, we'll be doing that. All right, so here's my method for cleaning the inserts. I just take any kind of glass cleaner, Windex or whatever it is, and just soak the inserts. Just a little spray. All right, so you just let that soak for a little bit, and there's not enough water on there to hurt anything. So just let that soak, and then after that's done soaking, this is where I take my mini steamer again. Just steam them clean. All right, that'll do it. And all the inserts are clean. All the brand new bulbs put in. Light boards back in. Everything cleaned. You can see how nice those inserts cleaned up doing it that way. Just a little bit of steam. Everything's already dried, ready to go. So bottom of the playfield is done now. So now we're ready to pull the playfield back out, and then we'll start cleaning the inside of the cabinet, inside the bottom of the cabinet. And we're working on cleaning the inside of the bottom cabinet. Got the power driver board out and refreshed. Everything's nice and clean. It's cover. Working on the inside of the cab right now. We'll go to that next. All right, now we're just finished painting the sidewalls black. Gives it a cleaner look. So when that dries, we can finish the inside and start putting it back together. And we're almost done with the interior. Starting to put it back together. So we got the sidewalls painted. Driver board cover cleaned. Driver board cleaned. Everything's refreshed. Get the inside of the coin door cleaned. So next we'll probably move on to painting the coin door in the legs and the trim. Now we're just putting a fresh coat of paint on the coin door. So what I do is, this is just a shop job, so it's not taken apart like I'd normally do on a restoration, but this really freshens it up nice. So I put like 2 coats of satin black on, and when that dries, you speckle it with gloss, and that gives it a factory finish. All right, this is a final coat, and then we'll put some heat on it. And right here is we'll put the gloss speckles. Alright, so we're putting a little heat on it. Nothing too close. You don't want to force dry it. We just, you know, we're in the end of November here, so you want to, paint takes a little bit longer to dry in this kind of weather. It's 64 degrees in the shop, so still warm enough to paint, but you put a little heat on it, it'll dry a lot nicer. And now we're putting a new coat of paint on the legs. Freshen those up a little bit, and then we'll be moving on to other parts on the cab. All right, and now we're going to work on the bottom, the outside of the bottom cab. It's got a few issues. Top rails are in good shape, but they got some scrape paint. Edges of the paint's peeling off. Just needs freshened up. Then the other issue I don't like is the front lock bar. I guess the spot weld's broke, so somebody drilled and put carriage bolts in it. They don't belong there. So we'll have to remove those, weld it, refinish it. And then we'll clean the outside of the bottom cab. And refresh the back there. Labels are peeling, needs a little paint, so that's what we're going to work on now. All right, we're all set up to start the welding. So we got the one carriage bolt removed. What we'll do is we'll take this copper spoon, hold that underneath the hole, and that'll give you a base to start the weld, so you don't get a bunch of pigeon shit on it. All right, so that's the next step here. We're going to start welding. That's one side. All right, ready to start the second side. And we'll just flip it over. Make sure we have some good penetration up here. So we'll hit each side up top. All right, so that's a finished. All right, and we have the welds ground down, so it's pretty smooth, but we're going to do a little bit of body work on this and get it ready for primer. And after primer, we can go to paint. And we have a little skim coat of body filler. So we'll get that sanded and move on to primer. All right, and the beer seal has been removed from under here. So take the old one off and got a new one ready to go on after it's painted. So just trying to keep one step ahead of whatever you're working on at the time. All right, so the Bondo sanded down. Give it a good cleaning. Okay, so that's ready for primer. And you want to use a really good primer. Don't use any rattle can bull crap. So you want to use a really good commercial primer. I'm using 2K, which is probably the best stuff for this. All right, we'll be back with you when we get it primered and we are getting ready to prep it for paint. All right, we're gonna mix a little bit of primer. Like I say, it's a 2K. Okay, and we have the top rails sanded down and repainted. And also the lock bar, which I'll show you in the next video. And here we have the finished lock bar. almost finished. Got the beer seal to put on underneath. Other than that, the trim is done on the bottom cab, ready to clean the art and start the backside. Okay, and now we're going to replace the translite with the upgraded 3D translite. So I got the glass prepared here. We'll get that installed and be right back. And here's a better look of the translite, 3D translite out of the wrapper. I don't know if it's going to show up in the video, but it's really deep. The 3D is real deep. And here it is installed in the glass with the trim. So that's ready to go in the game. Okay, we have the bottom cabinet is finished now. I don't have the legs on it, but they're done. So everything is finished. And also the back box is done. All the art, everything's done. I just have to do the T-molding. So I got that in the box right here. That's what I'll be doing next. But in order to do that, I have to get some help and get the back box put back on top of the cabinet here. So we'll catch up with you on the next one. Okay, we have the back box back up on the cabinet, and we are starting the T-molding. So we'll get that installed and then move on to the next piece. Okay, we have one side done, so we're moving on to the other side now. All right, so what we're working on now is we're making a harness to install the Ultimark video amplifier that's gonna brighten up the monitor. So we're in the process of doing that, and we'll catch up to you once we get it connected. Okay, so the game is pretty much finished as of right now. I just have some troubleshooting to do on a couple little small things. So it's almost there. Biggest issue I was having was the sound. When I bought the game, the sound was kind of buzzy, like it had a buzz to it. And then after I shopped this out and put it back together, the sound didn't work at all. And as of right now, it looks like it was just the audio cable. So that's done. And the second big issue, I'm not happy with the monitor. I don't think it's bright enough. I put the Ultimark amplifier in it. That helped a little bit, but it's just too weak. So I'm gonna be messing with that a little more, and I'll update you on what I find out with that. So getting real close. Okay, so we have been trying to work on this monitor. It's just very weak. I mean, you can barely see it. Let me turn some lights off. I mean, that's just horrible. That's with a video amplifier. So I'm gonna try something else. Something I just found. I was gonna take a look here and order a rebuild kit, but the neck chassis up here, when I took it off, the pins were loose where it connects to the tube, So I'm going to reflow those and see if that corrects it. So let me do that and I'll be right back with you. All right, I reflowed the chassis neck on the monitor and it didn't help. I'm really surprised because those pins were loose as heck. So I guess I'm going to have to go with the rebuild here and see what happens. Okay, got the lock bar receiver taken out. We're going to refurbish that because I didn't like the way it looked compared to everything else I did. So we'll refinish this and then show you the results. And that's the finished lock bar receiver. Refreshed, looks a lot better. And here's the monitor showing how weak it is. I'll scan up. Very weak. Even with the amplifier, it's weak. So I'm gonna have to rebuild the chassis. We'll start with that next. All right, so here's the back of the machine. Upper back door off so we can access the monitor. So we'll be pulling out the monitor chassis and rebuild it. So hopefully that'll take care of things. So we'll catch up with you in a minute. Okay, we're getting ready to remove the chassis. And the chassis is, it's behind this plate right here. So this has to come off. And the neck board up here has to come off. But you're gonna start by in front of the tube up there. I don't know if you can see that little cap. Well, I'll go around front and show you, but you wanna start by getting yourself something metal like a screwdriver and a grounding cord. And you wanna ground it to anything metal on this chassis, so this frame or anything. So let me hook up the ground and then we'll go up front. It's gonna be easier from the front to get that discharge and get that cap off the monitor tube. Okay, so we got the ground wire hooked to the chassis, and I'm gonna discharge the tube with that cap right there. So you wanna stick the end of the probe under that cap. Ooh, did you hear that? That's why you wanna, that's when you wanna discharge it. That is high voltage, man. That'll get you. Whew. Even knowing it was coming, it still feels a little sketchy. So I like to discharge it. We'll take this cap off. You just squeeze it together. There's like two little prongs in there. And then I'll discharge the tube again once that's off. So let's get that off. And I still a little leery of those things, so I'm gonna grab some needle nose pliers. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Just gonna use these long needle nose. You can get these anywhere. So I want to squeeze that together like that. And comes right off. See that? And I'll show you on the back side once we take it off. I'll show you what the prongs look like. So I'm gonna go back in and discharge that again. Oh, I heard a little snap again. So that's why it's always good, man. Do it twice. You do not want to mess with that high voltage. Okay. So I'm gonna put this away. We're gonna go around back and I'm gonna show you what the prongs look like on the cap. Okay, so we're in the back now, and I pulled it out a little bit, and you can see it. They have a caution tag on it that you have to discharge it, but the way that's up in there, you would never see that tag. You would just, if you didn't know better, you could really hurt yourself or kill yourself. All right, so here's the back of the cap. See how it has those two little tabs? And you could do it with your fingers. I never like to play around with that crap, so that's why I use the needle nose pliers, because you got rubber, you're insulated with the rubber handles. But this rubber cap would probably be fine. You just squeeze those together like that to get it out of the tube. So that's the discharging the tube. So now we're going to start unplugging wires, and we're going to start with the video cable, which is right here. This will come off. This neck board will come off right here. It just, you got to be gentle. You don't want to break that tube. So you just wiggle it really gently, and it'll pull straight off. And we got a connector here to take off. There is a grounding strap. Like, these monitors are supposed to ground themselves when you turn them off. That's what this strap is for. But as you can see, it didn't work. That's why you never want to play around. Okay, so those connectors, and then there's another one right here that will come off. That one, that red and white one. But I think what we're gonna have to do, we can reach these, the neck board, this one, and this one. But before I take that one off underneath and behind, I'm gonna remove these fasteners and get that chassis off so I can get a better view of how to get it off. And then I always mark the direction on them too, just so you put it back on the correct way. So I'll start working on that, and I'll be right back with you. All right, so we have it almost off. The chassis is loose, and I got a couple connectors back here to do. And also the remote that fishes up front to beneath the back glass so you can adjust the monitor. That comes with the chassis, so you have to feed that back through. So let's take the neck board off. I'll show you how easy that is. Just be careful, you don't want to break anything. Okay, so that comes off. Like that. So that's why you want to be careful. You could break those tubes really easy. It's just that's all a glass tube up there. All right, so let's, I gotta feed that back through this bracket here, and we got a couple more connectors in the front, one or two, and then the chassis is out, and we can put it on the bench and work on it. All right, so we have the chassis removed from the game, and we have it on the bench. So just waiting for some parts right now. But at the very least, what I'm gonna do is we're gonna put a cap kit in it. I don't see any caps that are bloated or anything, so I don't see anything that looks visually bad, but you know, it doesn't mean anything either. So all new caps, and we're also gonna replace the flyback, which is that big black thing right there. And this is a Wells Gardner chest or monitor. So the correct flyback for that is that DN FFA 2019. So you want to make sure you get the right flyback for that chassis. And we have just got in the mail today a flyback for it. And as you can see, it indeed is a DNF F 2019. DNFFA 2019. And of course, everything's made in China now. So we got the flyback, waiting on the cap kit, and we'll take the board off of that bracket and start replacing everything. So hopefully that'll take care of it. As you can see from the picture tube video, we still have a weak monitor, even with the video amplifier. So I'm gonna start rebuilding everything, chassis, neck board, and that should do it. All right, so this tube's been sitting for a while. I'm gonna see if I can get in here and show you. It recharges, so you really gotta, every time you mess with this thing, you gotta ground it out. See if we can get it to do it. That was a small one. But after I discharged it twice before, I went back like 10 minutes later and it snapped again. It's pretty crazy. And we're now working on rebuilding the chassis. So we'll get this rebuilt stick it back in the monitor and see how we make out. Their chassis out of my Star Wars Episode 1, and I didn't have any improvement. So what I did notice though, this connector right here, the color of the wires were reversed on this chassis, so maybe somebody has that plug in backwards. Let me try to switch that around and see if that helps. And when installing the chassis back in, this rubber cap's kind of a pain in the butt to try to get them hooks back into that tube, so you might want to try one of these office paper clips. Alright, so we rebuilt the chassis on the monitor, put the video amplifier in. It did help. The monitor's a lot better, but it still isn't, I don't know, it's just not that good. And so what I did was I have this home use only Star Wars Episode 1. So I took the chassis out of this one and put it in the Revenge just to see if it would help, you know, if it's something in the chassis or what. And it didn't get any better. So there's something in the tube. I don't know if the guns are shot in the tube, the barium is worn out or what, but you know, it's got a picture, it's just not right. So I think what I'm gonna do, you can see there, it's just, you can't get it in focus. I've tried all the adjustments. So I think what I'm gonna do is put an LED in it. And so we'll try that, and we'll see what the difference is. So here's a little video. And this is with the, I have some of the lights off, which helps, but you know, it's hard to make out some of the stuff. All right, so I'll be back when I get the LCD. All right, so an update on the Revenge from Mars. We just got in the flat screen. So we'll be replacing that and get this game finished and delivered. I'll update you again once I get that thing torn apart and get ready to install it. Okay, so the monitor is out of the Revenge from Mars. Like I said before, the whole chassis was rebuilt, and I even used an NOS one out of another game I have, and the picture was still weak. So there's something wrong with it, the actual tube. The barium's worn out or something. So install a LCD, fit it in there real nice, and it's all done now. So I'll get you a picture up front, you know, with the images. And here's the front. It's got a beautiful picture. The Pinball 2000 has a unique lock in the front. This one right here, right beside the start button. What that is, it's for a location key. So when you're on location, if you have this thing operated like in a bar or an arcade or something, and if a ball gets stuck up on one of the plastics or something, or a piece breaks off and it's interfering with the gameplay, the location will have that key, so they can turn this and it'll open up the lock bar. So you can pull the glass down and get the ball out, and without giving them the key to access the coin box and having access to the money. And here we have the finished game. So it's a near perfect game. Very, very little flaws, just minor stuff on the cabinet. Stuff you wouldn't even notice unless I showed you. Very beautiful. 3D back glass. And one thing I like to do on the Pinball 2000s, since it has this mirrored glass, so how this works is there's this glass has it's got a fade to it, so it's kind of clear towards the front where the lock bar is, and as you go back towards the back, it gradually gets more and more mirror in it, so the monitor, the picture reflects off of that mirror, which gives you the illusion that you're playing into a video game. So what I like to do, I like the white rubber. As you can see, that white rubber, I think the rebound on it's a lot better than the black. But as you get towards the back of the game, back where the mirror is, I do like to do it in black. So that's all black rubber and black post rubber back there, so that when you're playing the game, the white would show through the video more than the black. The black kind of just fades away into the picture, so you don't really notice that it's there. All right, so I guess now we'll do some gameplay and show you how it plays. First, coin up this game. So it's on free play, so I'm just going to coin it up. There's icons at the bottom there. See the arrow on the third from the right? You can change the mode to whatever mode you want to start the game in. And you start it, you change that mode by this flipper button. There's two parts to it. This is your flipper, but this is how you change the mode. This one up here.
Let's see what's on this one.
There is disturbing news from the White House tonight.
I'll say. Ooh, that one, definitely that one. I'm just ripping.
Honey, would you like to put more lotion on my back?
Good shooting, Nate. Oh, hey, the city of love. Take him out. Extract Martin Victor. We will cook you Martins up some major pain.
As you can see, I can work on them better than I can play them. That kind of gives you a feel for what it's all about.